Hi, welcome everyone to another Vercel community session. My name is Jacob Paris, and I'll be your host today. We do these sessions to highlight cool projects and interesting ideas from people in the community, from customers, and sometimes, like today, from people on the Vercel team. We're streaming this live out to X, but if you want to participate in the chat, come into community.vercel.com, click going on the event, and that will unlock the chat. And at the end of the session, we're going to have some time for Q&A, so follow our code of conduct and drop any questions you have along the way. I'd like to introduce our guest. We've got Matt Lewis here to show us how to build an AI Slack agent. Hey, Matt. Oh, you are muted. I'll unmute you. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Lewis from the partnerships team here at Vercel. Excited to talk all things Slack agents. How are you today, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm doing really great. Yeah, I'm calling in from Toronto. It's getting colder and colder every day, which sets my panic in motion, but excited to be here talking to you.
Awesome. Well, I'm
Yeah,
joining today from Tennessee. So,
it sounds
but
warm.
yeah, today I want to talk about building a Slack agent. But before we jump into how to build it, I want to step back and kind of talk about why to build it and why right now is such a great time to build one of these things. If you came to Chip 25 a couple months ago or a month ago, I gave a talk about this, and today I want to kind of condense it into this community session about why right now is such a great time to build Slack agents. So to get started, I really want to just talk about the software we built yesterday. So if you've been building for the web for just a little or just a long time, you're probably used to this idea of building, inputs, forms, creating tickets, creating dashboards, and trying to create a screen for all the different information that you want to accept or compute with. So you definitely found yourself, building a form to collect this information, to try to automate some sort of system where someone fills in a form, you create a ticket, someone picks up the ticket, gets the work done. Um, but to build something like this, you probably got into this trap as well. There's a lot of logic that you have to write or glue to make systems like this work. So, for every new type of input or any new type of information that you wanted to work with, you had to write another, if this, then that statement, or, this other thing that could happen, or this weird edge case that we ran into one time. And I'm sure all of you have like gotten to a point where you're like, this is just growing out of control. Like I can't make this thing any better. It's really just becoming such a process just to handle all the different types of information we want to work with. Um, but as we all know, with the rise of, large language models and AI, we've been introduced to a new way of building software. And it sort of looks like this. So you have an input on the left. It could be anything. It could be a form submission, API request, voice note, any type of information coming into your system. And on the right, you can see that there's one to many ways to handle this information. Because an LLM or an agent is good at taking information and deciding what to do with it. We aren't writing all the code of all the different possible scenarios of what to do with the information. We're able to now use AI or agents and to help us build this software. But not only do they help us with this one to many outputs, they help us fill in the gaps in our systems. So all of those edge cases that we could not think of or weird, you know, incidents that might have occurred, we start to be able to build software that looks more like this. So still information coming in, but being able to process it and fill in all the gaps of where the logic might break down. Um, and so that's why I think right now is such an amazing time to build these Slack agents because we get to build with AI, with LLMs. Um, so yeah, I want to jump into kind of like, so why build a Slack agent? You know, you can build an agent, it can live or operate anywhere, but why Slack? And the number one reason I think Slack is a great place to kind of build your first agent is because it works where you already do. So many of us log into Slack at first thing every day to start our day. And bringing our agent to Slack allows it to work right next to us where we already are. So you're also going to get great things like fast and easy team adoption. You're not going to interrupt the way that they're used to working. You're just going to be able to enhance the way they're already working. And then also, since this is where all of the work happens, this is also where all of the information is. So you don't have to build all of the, pipelines or ways to get information to your agent. It already is in Slack, and that's where, work is happening. And then finally, it's a great place to really automate your workflows. And what we've learned at Vercel is it's the perfect spot for that human in the loop interaction. So not only does it allow you to, kick off a workflow, but all of the outputs can then come back to Slack. And it can be, a single source of truth for everything that's happening. And you really are able to finish the swing on what you're building. So it helps automate the input, and then all of the output can also come back. And you get that great loop of information when building this type of software. So that was a quick, like why build one of these, why now is such a great time. And I want to kind of talk about how to build it now. So if you've ever built a Slack app, it used to be quite difficult. There was no sort of framework you could work with. If you were using something like Next.js, you probably just set up a single webhook listener to listen to all of the events that were coming from Slack. And in my case, one of my least favorite things is there was no type safety. You didn't have an easy way to interact with these events in a type safe way. And for me, this led to slow iteration. I spent a lot of time just figuring out what the events looked like rather than finding valuable ways to do things with them. But you know, in today's world, we do now have a framework. So Slack has built the Bolt for JavaScript framework. So it's for JavaScript, for Python. Today, we're just focusing on the JavaScript version, and it allows you to use all the latest features of interacting with Slack in that type safe way. And then also Vercel, we built an adapter. So we built a way for you to deploy this framework to our AI cloud. So you get all the benefits of Bolt and all the benefits of the AI cloud with Vercel. Um, and so before I jump into this code right here, I want to talk about the workflow here. So I mentioned in the past, our job as developers was to, build those inputs, build those forms, build those ways of gathering the information. Whereas in today's world, we really just have to build the tools for our agents to work with. So in this example here, you can see in blue, we have three tools, read thread, search conversations, list files. And with just these three tools, our agent can do a lot because it's not bound to just using them in a synchronous one, two, three order. It's not just going to do read thread search conversation list files, it can do things like, well, let me first search the conversations. Oh, I found this interesting one. Let me now read this thread. Oh, I can see that we can also search again based on what I've learned in this thread. And now I'm able to list some files to gather even more context. And like I mentioned before, this is that the logic in those gaps in the software we used to build. We really had to think about every single step in order, if else or this. Whereas now, if we just create the right tools, we allow our agent to work with them and get the job done. Um, and so we've built the Slack agent template where we've created these tools, set up a great CI/CD fast iteration template that allows you to work both locally and with teammates. And I really want to just give you a demo of that template now. So I'm going to move over to a Slack developer sandbox. So this is a free sandbox that Slack provides you. You just have to sign up for their developer program, and it's an enterprise level sandbox with all of the features. And it's made so that you can start to build apps quickly, and that you don't have to sign up for anything or pay for anything. You get this sandbox just to iterate and build great software. And in this sandbox, you'll notice I have two apps installed, Slack Agent Local and Slack Agent. Yes, the local one is the app I'm using to develop locally, because with Slack, you can build multiple versions of one app. So, for example, here is the Slack developer program where I have that local app, and every app has a manifest. This is similar to if you build something like a Chrome extension where you essentially list out the permissions you need your app to have when working with the Slack API, as well as where to send events when they occur. And you might notice that this is an ngrok URL, and that is on purpose. Since you are needing to interact and listen to events coming from Slack, their system needs to know where to send these events. And it's not able to reach your local host 3000. So even with this template, we've created a script that you can run to very easily set this up and not have to copy and paste and move back and forth between, localhost and ngrok. We've really tried to cover everything to give you that great developer experience you're used to when building with Vercel. And so you'll see that I'm using the Bolt framework here. So real quick, I can open up our app. You can see here that I'm importing the app from Slack Bolt. And we very easily can just construct this app that is essentially a webhook listener. We provide it a couple secrets, our token, our signing secret. And then you'll notice here that we provide a receiver. So this is that open source adapter that we created so that you can deploy the Bolt framework to Vercel. And then once I start using this framework, it becomes very easy to listen to and process events. So for example, in this file, you'll see I very easily say, hey, I want this app that I created earlier to listen to the app home opened event. And then I just pass it a function that I want to run when that event occurs. And this is all type safe, all very easy to work with. And if I move over to our Slack app here, you'll see that if I open home, we get this very simple screen that I created with that TypeScript code. But more importantly, and what's more cool is Slack is also adopting their product for agents. So if you haven't seen this assistant thread before, you now have the ability to interact with an agent no matter where you are currently in Slack. You can open up this assistant thread started and you can ask it questions, and it can also listen to the context of what you're looking at. Um, for now, I'm just going to say, what does Slack stand for? And we'll see that our agent immediately started with a thinking state, but also can stream in a response. So with our template, we also support streaming responses in Slack, as well as very easily allowing you to control that thinking state. So to demonstrate this, I want to jump over to this channel, and the way that you interact with this app is by mentioning it. So I'm going to say, hi, Slack agent, let's research the Bolt for JavaScript framework. Now, my app running locally receives that event, and the very first thing we'll see is that we got that nice loading state. The way that this works, I'm just going to walk through the code. So once again, this is our template, open source. You can use it today. And you'll see I have some very simple code. So first, update agent status. A very easy helper function that we created that allows you to set that nice thinking state. And you can control it with a static string or maybe a dynamic string as well. Um, Next, if you've used the AI SDK, we are also integrating with their message model. So we've also given you a very easy function that says, take this Slack thread and turn it into a messages for the AI SDK, how the AI SDK expects your messages to look. And I pass that to a create text stream function. This is kind of the core of this assistant template. And if I open this up, you'll see we have the AI SDK that we've all seen before using the Vercel AI gateway. And as I mentioned before, I just had to provide the right tools to my agent. And I decided this needs to be able to update the chat title. It needs to get thread messages, it needs to get channel messages, and it needs to update the agent status. And with just these four things, I can do things like, hey, agent, read this Slack thread, do research on what's being discussed, and create a ticket for my team to work on. We're really able to just provide the right tools and let our agent get to work right where we are already working. So if I come back to Slack, I'm going to try to give it a something that it really needs to work on. But I can join this same thread, and you could imagine my teammates in here as well. So it says, would you like to know specific aspects of the framework? I want to, how do I set up a command with Bolt for JavaScript? And I did not tag the agent. I did this purposely because I want it to feel like the same way our coworkers work with us. Normally, you tag someone when you're asking them for something, and we could imagine that another uh, coworker joins this thread and asks another question like, "How do I listen to direct messages with Bolt?" And then finally, we can tag our agent and say, help us with this or whatever it is. And since we've given it the right tools, it's able to read this thread, turn this thread into messages that the AI SDK understands, and then create this response here. I'll scroll through it real quick. I'm not going to go through it line by line. But you'll also notice that it supports Markdown. So this is another thing that we worked really hard on with this template is to get you started focusing on adding value to the template, not doing things like making sure Markdown streams in properly or making sure that errors are communicated back to Slack. We really want you to be able to grab this template and get straight to working on whatever type of agent you want to build. So you'll see here, it's mentioning like how to listen to direct messages, a complete example, and then also feedback. So this is very, very important when building any sort of agent is you need to be able to gather feedback from your users. So once again, another thing we added to this template is the ability for users to leave feedback and also letting them know, thank you for your feedback. You could customize this to say, you know, you can leave additional feedback here, and we've set this up so that you can use this event to send this feedback wherever you'd like it to go. Um, so that was a quick run through of the template that we've built. I also want to show some other resources that we have here at Vercel, but also for the community. So we also open sourced the lead agent. This was at Ship. We built this using the same template I just uh, gave a demo of. And this is an inbound lead qualification and research agent. So this is a way for you to, hey, when someone submits this sales form, let's automatically run them through this agent that can do things like enrich the data, do research on the company, maybe type out the first email for the first outreach to the customer. And once again, fully open source and is a fork of our agent template. And then we also have another go-to-market feedback agent. So this is an internal agent we use at Vercel that allows us to listen to what our customers are saying to us and provide a weekly digest to our go-to-market team of like, hey, these are the top topics, these are the things people are struggling with. And since it's connected to Slack, we're able to allow that agent to listen to the conversations we're having with our customers and provide real digestible feedback. And then finally, I think most exciting is that our V0 Slack agent, which is going to be public in the Slack marketplace very shortly, was also built with this template. And the reason I highlight this is I just want to show that this template really was built so you could go and quickly create real valuable agents. We were able to create these three with it, plus many more. And then I also want to share before we wrap up with some Q&A, just other resources if you are looking to build with Slack. They have their Slack Developer Sandbox. So if you sign up for the developer program, you can very easily spin those up. I also gave a much longer version of this talk at Ship. You can find that on YouTube as well as Vercel's site. And then finally, we do have multiple open source templates. So today I showed this Slack agent template built with the Nitro framework, but we also have templates with Next.js, Hano, Express, and many other frameworks that you might be more comfortable with or just wanting to build with when building for Slack. So now we have about 5 minutes. I just want to open it up for any Q&A. And then also, if you want to reach out to me afterwards, here's my email. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have about building Slack agents with the AI cloud. Thank you, guys.
Amazing, Matt. That was so good. That was so
Thank
good.
you.
I've built my own, or played around building my own Slack bots a little while ago, but the developer experience you've come up with here is much better than what I was working
Thank you.
with. I was really strongly into the every time I made a change, I had to deploy it to production.
Mhm.
And I had a cool setup with using webhooks to send a message, so I knew in Slack when the new version had came out. But the separate local app, I think, is much easier to use.
Thank
One
you.
thing I was curious about is like, how does setting the ngrok URL work in that? Like, does it
Mhm.
automatically register the ngrok URL and then update the manifest for it? Because those need to be in sync in the Slack app, right?
Yes. Yes. So I'll move over to that script we wrote. And that's exactly what it does. So you add your ngrok auth token to your environment, and we've written a script that essentially is like, hey, if they've set this environment variable, let's update their manifest so that events get sent to their ngrok tunnel. And then let's also inform Slack that this has been updated. Now, if you don't want to use this, it has all the fallbacks in place, so that it will just ignore this if it's not something you want to do. But it's a very simple script that we wrote, and it also resets your manifest when you shut down your local environment so that you don't commit those ngrok URLs to Git and they remain the normal ones you use for production.
Okay, cool. That's really cool. Yeah, that to be honest, that never occurred to me as a solution. I was always trying to manually orchestrate, like create the ngrok tunnel locally, but then
Mhm.
try and get that URL put everywhere else. So it's really cool
Yes,
that you automate it like that.
most most of these improvements came from pain. Most of these came from encountering like the way that we don't enjoy things. So how do we make it so we do enjoy things?
So we got a couple of questions here in the community. I guess
Mhm.
first one is like, what's the main benefit that Bolt gives you over rolling a classic Slack app? Like, what is
Yeah.
rolling a Slack app not on Bolt look like?
Yeah. So first, internally at Vercel, when we first introduced the ability to deploy Bolt to our cloud, people were very excited because of the fast iteration. And I think that's really what Bolt brings to your developers is imagine building a web app without a framework. You jump into a code base and you're very like you're lost. You don't know any of the patterns. With a webhook, there's so many different ways it can be built. But when you use a framework, anyone can jump into the code base and very quickly understand how this thing works. And then also the type safety. I think that was one of the biggest helpers when it came to building these templates was having those type safe events using Bolt. And then lastly, it also just like introduces you to new features that Slack comes out with. So whenever Slack has a new feature, they update Bolt to support it as well. And you kind of are, motivated to let's go try out this new thing.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that makes sense. The streaming to Slack message was something I didn't even know was possible. Is that like a Bolt
Yeah.
specific feature, or was that built
Yeah.
in from the template?
Yes. So Bolt, and they announced streaming this year, a couple months ago. And we very quickly added that to the template because we were very excited to see that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't know that was possible.
Mhm.
So I saw you when you were replying to the topic in the thread. Sorry, when you were replying to the bot in the thread, you had to explicitly
Mhm.
mention the bot in order to get it to pick up and respond to you. Do you recommend always limiting it to operating on mentions? Like, why not just allow it to jump in anywhere it feels suitable?
Yeah, we've tried both. So in the past, we said that a mention was the first way to start it, but then it should be allowed to interact with in the thread. We found that to be incredibly annoying, where we're like, "Hey, we actually don't need your help right now. Please don't jump into the conversation." And when you're building an agent that's working with you, I think that is the right trigger is like at mentioning the agent. So it's very obvious, like this is when I want the agent to do something. If you leave it ambiguous, you might get that, annoying agent that's just constantly like sending messages and you're like, I really don't need your help right now. You're just adding noise to the conversation. And that is a big thing that we focus on is adding the least amount of noise and just the most amount of value back to the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine if you have a conversation going with a bunch of people, it just pops in after every message.
Yeah.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. How do you structure background tasks, like say delayed
Mhm.
replies, or if you want the agent to proactively send a message when
Yeah.
something happens?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to do this. The first way Vercel has very easy to set up cron jobs, and Bolt also supports incoming webhooks, which means your system can send events to this app. So you could set up like, hey, every 24 hours, I want you to send this event to our Slack app, and I want this to occur. So that's one way to have like a scheduled event. And then the second is with workflows. So I think workflows is one of the best ways to build a Slack agent where you are able to very easily set up these um, these workflows. I'm looking for a better word, but essentially a way to set up like this is the exact workflow that I want to happen, and I'm able to pause it. I'm able to resume it. I'm able to make it sleep for a couple days. And a perfect example of this is link unfurls in Slack. So if you've ever shared a link in Slack and you get that nice rich unfurl, maybe it even shows you what they call a work object. And let's say you share the first one, but you're not signed in. So the app cannot unfurl it. It might just prompt you to sign in. Now, you would expect, okay, after I sign in, I expect the app to go and unfurl that link. Without something like workflows, that actually becomes incredibly difficult. Whereas if you just set up a workflow that says, hey, link is shared, pause, have them sign in, then resume that event, you're able to provide that really awesome experience to the users.
Yeah, because I guess the agent can then, the workflow can pause and suspend until it's
Mhm.
logged in and then just resume from the same action instead of need to do a whole other webhook callback round trip like you normally would need to.
Exactly.
Would you be able to make the agent automatically dismiss the unfurl or the preview? Because every Slack policy I've ever seen has been always delete the unfurls every time you paste a link.
So this is a great question. When we're building the V0 version, we're like, how do we provide a good unfurl that's actually helpful? But you also need to be careful because it's like, I need to only provide information that users are supposed to see. Um, so that's actually something that we are going to bring to the template is also just a very great unfurl policy. Because it's very easy for a user to dismiss these unfurls, but we also want them to be valuable. Hey, you've shared a link. Maybe we prompt you and say, that's actually a private link. You need to update the sharing permissions. Very common pattern, especially with something like if you've used Google Docs and Slack. A very simple feature, very powerful when it comes to sharing.
Cool, cool. So you got one question in the chat from someone
Mhm.
says, sorry you're joining late. Is there a template we can use to start? I know you've mentioned the templates, but would you be able to
Yeah.
share the page with the list of templates so we
Yes.
can see where that looks like? I'll put your screen up here
Yes.
again.
Oh, and I also wanted to give a quick preview. This is coming. This is from our academy. We're going to have a whole course on what I've talked about today. So for everyone that joined, this is a little sneak peek into what we will be building. But if you do go to vercel.com/templates, and you can just search Slack. You'll see we have a couple templates here. So we have our lead agent, we have our agent template. So this is built with Nitro, focused on LLM or AI interactions. And then we have three other more like bare bones templates. So if you want to build with Next.js or Nitro or Hano, you can use any of these to get started.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I love this template site. Looks really cool. All right. Next, what's the best way to feed company-specific data into an agent?
Yeah, so Slack is like I mentioned before, that is where all the information is, and that's very helpful. And when I'm building these, I don't listen to every message. I'm not, sending every single message that happens in Slack to my agent. I'm more focused on listening to the events that are important. So, for example, those mentions. Someone's mentioned my agent in this channel, in this thread. Okay, from that information, I can do things like read the thread that I'm in. I can read channel metadata. So maybe I have a title, some pinned links, some canvases, and with the API, I can gather all of this context. And those tools that I mentioned before, like read channel, I can prompt my agent to sort of do the same research a human would do in Slack. When I get a message and I'm not sure what the context is, I'm able to search and look through. It's now, how do I teach the agent through prompting and also tools to do the same thing? So that way you're not, listening to every single message. It's pretty inefficient and probably wouldn't lead to great results.
Okay, so you kind of just treat it like a human, and we could do
Mhm.
it the same way you would have a regular person find the information. Cool. Um, so yeah, we're almost at time here. So maybe last question is like, what's the best way to learn more about how to build agents and ideas for what to build with them?
Yeah, great question. So we did give the first thing, what should I build? We gave a talk called An Agent on Every Desk at our ship conference, available online. Um, and we talked a lot about like what is the first agent I should build. And our CTO talked about, find that low hanging fruit that you hate most about your job. What is the task that you hate doing and is also such low hanging fruit that you could very easily create an agent to do it? And I think, like he said, that is a great way to decide what should I build. Now, I started this talk with building it into Slack as well. I really think that is a great place to dip your toe into building agents because it immediately is accessible by your team. They can give you feedback, and you don't have to build all of the, like interaction interface. You don't build the messaging channels or anything like that. Like you already have Slack and it comes with this great interface to the agent you're building.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming along and showing us what you have here to build and teaching us so much about Slack and agents here. I yeah, really appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Right. Yeah, so thank you everyone else for joining and participating in the chat. We have another community session coming up next week on December 4th with HubSpot. So be sure to come in and check that out. And until then, we'll see you all in the community.